This is Bolus Maximus. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Matt. Thanks for tuning in.
This is my first time hosting a podcast. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. Any idea how we're supposed to get people to listen and subscribe to this podcast?
Just by saying it?
Subscribe.
You're tuned in to Bolus Maximus with Brandon and Matt. Don't forget to comment, share, and smash that like button to stay up to date.
All right, welcome back to Bolus Maximus. My name is Matthew Taro, and I'm here with my co-founder and co-host, Brandon A. Denson. What's up, Brandon? How you doing?
What's up? How's it going?
It's going well today. I'm super excited to be back in 2021, new year, starting off the new year right with our first podcast here with a very, very close friend of Bolus Maximus, Alexis Newman. Hey, Alexis.
Hey. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We are super excited to have you. This is a privilege and a pleasure to host you. You've joined a bunch of our calls, and you've been instrumental. You've given a presentation in one of our calls, and you've talked about what you do as a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist. So I would love to have you introduce yourself, quick who you are and what you do, and then we'll jump into some this or that questions for you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I am Alexis Newman. I'm a registered dietitian, like they said, and I just celebrated 37 years with type 1 diabetes. Woo, 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 woo.
Oh, it's not on here. Oh, wait, hold on. I have some.
Yeah!
We have something for that. Yeah.
Great. I have a 3.5-year-old toddler who has made a couple appearances during our calls. And I'm married to a very creative, amazing guy. He's super supportive. And I have a private practice. And at this moment, I specialize helping women gain control of emotional eating, have helped them reduce food cravings, and also build confidence in the body that they're in. I am transitioning to working more with individuals who have diabetes. I started collecting my 1,000 hours. I think I have 21 of the 1,000.
Okay.
So I'll get there soon,
It's a process. It's a process,
y'all. It's a process.
That's wonderful. We'll get into talking some about the emotional eating and supporting women, like you said, in the body that they're in, and being able to do that this day and age. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of who's telling you the right thing. Sounds like you're the right person to listen to. We've taken some good advice from you so far. So let's jump into some real fun this or that questions. We got about 10 of them here. This is just so people can know a little bit more about you. These are totally random, and we'll get started here. So I'm going to read off one, and then Brandon will go, and we'll just go back and forth.
Okay.
All right, Alexis. Low carb or high carb?
Medium carb. Can I just throw?
Ooh, wow. She threw her own answer
Yeah,
in there.
you can.
Love it.
Because some days I'm high carb, I'm eating all the carbs, and the other days I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to eat my meat and vegetables, and that's how I feel right now.
Got it.
Last night I had French fries for dinner. That's it. Yes, I'm a dietitian, and I had French fries.
Look, we're all human.
Yeah,
we're all human. Look, all right.
That sounds wonderful.
Ice cream sundae or ice cream sandwich?
Ice cream sundae.
Cookies or cake?
Cookies.
Live music or nightclub?
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, it would have been live music.
Okay.
Live music. Mm-hmm.
And not to just assume that everybody consumes alcohol, but whiskey or wine?
Wine.
Coffee or tea?
Ooh. So this is kind of complicated. So my heart loves coffee. However, my body is like, no, go sit down and drink your cup of tea. The coffee gets me all jittery and antsy and irritable, and it's not good when you have a toddler. So I've enjoyed tea. I found a root beer flavored tea. It's delicious.
That's interesting.
I have to get that after this call. I want to find out where that's coming from.
Amazing.
Okay. Backpack or fanny pack?
backpack.
Sneakers or sandals?
Ugh. I don't know. I guess sneakers. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
We're biased. We're in San Diego, so it's like we wear sneakers, but we take them off when we go to the beach.
Definitely.
Right. So like in the summer, because I'm in the Philly area, so most of the year I have to have sneakers on. But I do like a sandal. But it's complicated. It's complicated. I like a good flip flop, but in my elder age, my
Young,
feet
stop
can't handle this.
Stop it. You're young. All right, and then this is specifically as we are all living with type 1 diabetes. Gummy bears or gummy worms?
Neither.
Okay, see? Interesting. Let's just jump right into this then, right? As my man Brandon Denson would say, what would you prefer as a low snack, right? As you're a nutritionist, you're a licensed, you're a registered dietitian and licensed nutritionist. Somebody would look at you and say, "Oh my goodness, if she's going to eat it, I'm going to eat it." But what do you prefer if you're having a low as a diabetic? What do you prefer to have? What's your go-to?
Applesauce.
Applesauce.
I haven't had applesauce in so long. Oh my
You
God.
just open the little cup and like down
Just throw it back. Yeah.
And it's 15 grams because in the little cup, you don't have to guess.
Man, I'm definitely getting some applesauce after this call.
I got some in the
Yeah.
fridge.
Let's go.
I got some in the fridge. I got some
It has to be cinnamon. It has to be cinnamon
Cinnamon,
applesauce.
yes.
I got that in the fridge. All right, listen. I knew. So, wait, do you get the ones that have the little squeeze top and they come in like a little pouch?
No, those
Okay.
skeeve me out because you can't see inside.
Yes. All right. I was just going to say, until someone sent me something about not being able to see inside, I was like, oh, I'm going to stop eating those right now.
Right. Yeah. And I only got known that because I have a toddler. So, I'm on all the mommy blogs and it was like a example picture of what it looked like. I was like, oh no, this is horrible.
Yeah.
So I use like the little cups with the little cellophane or the
The little tinfoil on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Although I just had a bag of gummy bears. 2 bags of gummy
I
bears.
don't like them. You have to chew them well. Like, ooh.
Just depends on which ones you get. You gotta.
We're not promoting any specific type of
No.
gummy bear, gummy worm here, but
No.
I found some that I really like, and they're not that hard. They're not like super chewy and like rubbery. Anyways,
My husband loves gummy bears. Like he does not have diabetes, but he likes gummy bears. So he would go with the gummy bear.
We gotta tell husband he can't be eating all those gummy bears because you might need them. You know what I mean?
I think it's kind of funny. Like I kind of forget that people eat gummy bears as just like a snack or like as like a favorite candy, and I'm like,
Right.
oh no, those have a very special place in my life.
Correct. The same with juice. Like I don't really keep juice in the house except for if I'm low. And so I'll go to other people and they have like bottles and bottles of juice. I'm like, really? People drink this stuff? I guess so.
Or
It's not
orange,
medication.
like orange juice.
It's like not a thing.
Why do you have this? You're not diabetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you grew up as a diabetic, right? You were diagnosed at a very, very young age. And so, as you just said, celebrating 37 years, congratulations. You were diagnosed at 18 months.
18 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up with diabetes?
Sure. So a little bit about my diagnosis story. My babysitter actually diagnosed me.
Wow.
Recently, I guess a nephew or a cousin or someone was recently diagnosed, and she was like to my parents, "Your kid is sick. She has diabetes." My parent, any parent of an 18, there's nothing wrong with my kid. There's nothing wrong with her. And at the time, I was sick with the ear infection for 3 months. It just wouldn't clear up. And so after it cleared up, I had started having the signs and symptoms of type 1. And so my doctors were like, "Oh no, she's just recovering from the illness." And then she's like, "Unless you come back to me with a note saying she does not have diabetes, I will not watch her." And of course, my parents work full time. There is no not watching me. So, took me to the doctor. They did the test, came up type 1. So my parents did an amazing job. Like, shout out to all the type 1 diabetic parent, like the parents of y'all. If my daughter had diabetes, I don't know what to do. Like, but my parents basically just had me eat well-balanced meals. Like, I didn't start counting carbohydrates until I was 17 years old. Until I got on my pump. That's when I got on my first pump, when I was like 16 or 17. And so we just ate well-balanced meals. The doctor who diagnosed me was just like, yeah, she's a normal kid, just feed her normal stuff. And they just didn't keep a lot of like chips and cakes and cookies. They just didn't eat like that, you know? So it really wasn't that difficult. Growing up, I went to diabetes camp when I was 7 and 8, and I learned how to give my own shots. And from that point on, I managed my own diabetes, didn't let my parents touch me. I was like, nope, it's mine. I don't know how smart that was, but I'm here and healthy, so.
Oh, sorry. You didn't give your own shots before going to camp? You gave yourself shots at camp for the first time? Or was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
That's
was it because of the support of like the kids around you that were doing it? Or, I mean, you may not remember. I
guess so. I would think, I mean, I was a camp counselor. Like, I've been part of this camp for over 15 years. And we basically.
Hold on. I can't let you just say this camp. Yeah, what camp is it? What camp?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, it's called Keystone Diabetic Kids Camp. Okay. KDKC. It's an amazing. They are like my family. We fight like family. We love like family. It's a huge part of my life. And when I was a camp counselor, we would have the kids kind of make goals for the week. And we strongly encouraged them to try and give them their own shot or put their pump in a different place. And then at the end of the week, we did a huge celebration. So I don't really remember at this point, it's 30 some years ago. I don't remember the camp experience. I just remembered around that time I came home and I was like, nope, I got it. You know, so I imagine that's kind of how it was. They kind of supported you in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And I don't mean to make it sound like it, just because as, you know, individuals, I've also worked as a camp director, a camp counselor and camp director. I never really went to camp as a kid. We were both diagnosed in high school. So not going to camp as a child, I can't imagine what that would be like. And we've actually talked a couple of times about being diagnosed early on in life versus being diagnosed as an adolescent or as an adult. And I think it kind of helps shape who you are as a diabetic. In a way. And I think that I would never, ever, ever wish anybody, you know, a diagnosis like this. But I think that depending on where it is, you're either really blessed and you have a really good outlook on your life and your diagnosis, or you're diagnosed later in your 20s or your 30s and you feel like it's a burden.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like that? Have you ever thought about something like that? Have you ever talked about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I remember times growing up being really upset and like, I don't want to say throw tantrums, but I remember just getting so angry, trashing my bedroom and then like cleaning up real quick because I didn't want to get in trouble. So I like struggled with being angry and about it. And then I would come out of it because it really wasn't any different. Like in school, like I played soccer. I was the lacrosse goalie. I was head cheerleader, you know, like it literally, I traveled to Peru for a missions trip. I went to Cancun just to party. Like it really never held me back. So, but the burden was like, man, this is just a lot to manage. Like this is just a lot. And I remember having like my mid-20, like college, where I was just like, you know what, I'll do whatever. I don't really care, you know, for a good 5 to 10 years. I was just like, whatever, I'm going to have diabetes for like, when I'm 40, I'm going to have it for like 38, I'm at it. I'm like 38 years. I might as well enjoy my life now. Like that's the mindset I had because I just couldn't see what my life would look like with type 1 in my 40s or 50s or 60s. So I'm like, I might as well party and enjoy it now. And praise God, like I partied crazy in college, but my roommates would look out for me. I didn't know this, but as we got older, they were like, yeah, we used to come in there and make sure you were still alive just because you partied as hard as we did. And
Man,
we want to just, so like I've just been blessed to have a support system that I didn't even realize I had in the moment until like after I reflect. But I've always kind of had that mindset of like, it's not going to hold me back. Like, I do whatever I want.
I'm glad you brought that up about being able to play sports and travel and do all those things, because I think sometimes the stigma is people think that, one, I think when you're first diagnosed and you've been living with it for 37 years, but when we look at it, some people when they're diagnosed, they think like it's a death sentence or they can't do things, or they're going to be out of the loop, or people are going to look at them differently, which maybe they will look at you differently. Who cares? Yeah. It doesn't matter. That shouldn't deter you from doing whatever it is that you want to do. So I'm glad that like you brought that out, and you was just like, look, I'm gonna do me, and I think we all go through those phases and patches in life where it's like, man, this is a lot. It's a lot to deal with, dealing with it from 18 months, from being diagnosed at 18 months, like I couldn't even imagine. I wouldn't even be able to wrap it up. Like it is so like, I think you've come a long way, regardless of the college days or you taking the break in between or whatever. The main thing is that you know where you're at now, and you knew where you were, and you've never stopped living your best life.
Exactly. I mean, I think what laid the foundation, again, I keep, talking about my parents, but the one story that they've told me is when I was in daycare. It was a new daycare. I switched from the in-home daycare to like a chain daycare. And I was sitting inside with the daycare workers, and all the kids were outside playing. And my parents were like, why is she inside and not outside? And they're like, oh, because she has diabetes and we just didn't know. And she's like, no, my daughter can do any and everything that the other kids are doing. And I think that mantra kind of just like laid the foundation on how I viewed it. Like I never struggled with hiding my diabetes. Like whenever I met someone, I always talked about it. I always,
huge.
Showed my pump.
Yep.
It was just like, this is just who I am. You like it, take it or leave it,
exactly.
And
now you said you brought up pump, and I'm curious, because I know you said you didn't really start officially counting carbs until like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Like when did you get on like pump therapy, and when you started using a pump, what kind of pump did you actually use?
I started at age 16, and I started with Medtronic. And I was on Medtronic from 16 until mid-20s. I went through the various pumps, right? Or was I? Yeah, I went through various pumps with them. And then I would randomly take myself off pumps and start taking shots again. And the doctor was like, what did you do? I said, I just started taking shots. I didn't feel like it.
Just took a pump break. Just took a pump break.
Well, I did. Right. And then I guess I want to say my late 20s, I ended up with T-Slim for almost a year and a half. And my body just didn't respond well to it. I had a lot of unexplained highs. And as soon as I went back to Medtronic, my numbers went back to normal. I didn't change anything else. And then I got I got annoyed with pumps in general, and I went on shots for another year and a half or so. And then I conceived, and I was like, oh, this is crazy, doing shots and being pregnant. This is nuts.
We wouldn't know anything about that. So
so I ended up getting on Omnipod. So I've been on Omnipod for 4 years now.
Now I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Out of the 3 pumps that you had experience with, which one do you prefer the best? That works for you the best?
Omnipod, hands down.
Okay.
Yeah. And the main reason is that I realized that having tubing was detrimental to my mental state, because the tubing is for me was a constant reminder that something was there that I had to address. And the freedom I felt when I got on Omnipod, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And I would have never made that connection without trying the Omnipod. However, this new little T-Slim with a little connection with the Dexcom,
You see my sweatshirt?
Uh-huh.
What's up, girl?
I don't know. I
We'll
don't.
talk.
I don't know.
We'll talk.
I'm thinking because I've been having issues recently with my Omnipod with failed pods. I never, up until these last, like, I have never had issues with failed pods. Like in the last 3 months, like I've been through boxes and they're great. They replace them.
Yep.
But the emotional, like when they fell is like the most inopportune time. Like it's like breakfast for Zuri, breakfast for me, log it on to work, and I'm gonna have a failed pod. Like, come on now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of getting.
I like that you brought up that mental stress, because that was something, as somebody who's also used all the different types of pumps currently on the market. I came off of Omnipod when I started working at Tandem, but the first 3 months that I worked there, I wore Omnipod, and people would ask me all these questions, and it started to get more severe. One, because I was like in the building for Tandem, and I was like, come on, let me get one of these. And they finally, my insurance started, and I was, no longer a temp, and I got as a full-time employee. But the stress that was associated with losing a pod after you fill it with insulin, if it's in the first 24 hours, that is a kick in the shins.
Oh man.
And the head. Yeah. It's horrible. Mm-hmm. It's horrible.
This happened so many times. You know how many times I try to suck as much insulin out as possible? I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happened. The timing is always bad. And sometimes it happens like when you're out and you're doing stuff. Not recently, but I can't believe Brandon asked that like you were going to say Medtronic or something. All right.
Wow.
So listen to this. Medtronic, though, I was a die-hard Medtronic, you know what I'm trying to say, fan because of how consistent they were. Like, they always picked up on time. They always came through. Like, I never had to wait. And what got me to Tandem was I liked how you could have all the different settings, because I think I was like really into weightlifting at the time. Mm-hmm. I was Olympic weightlifting, and I needed more settings. And that's what got me over. But if it wasn't for all the different settings, I would have probably been on Medtronic for a very long time.
Yeah. Interesting.
We're going to have to follow up this conversation with one offline so we can talk a little bit more about what you alluded to previously. But I think it's a really exciting time. Let's talk about this then, right? It's a really exciting time, and you have been somebody who has helped women and individuals in general with their dietary habits, specifically being okay in your own body. I think the medical device is something that you throw on, you slap on your arm, you put it on your hip, you kind of go about your day, like you said. Maybe with the tubes, you don't have to worry about it. But the food is what you put in your body. And I think that is a lot of times more mentally stressful for a diabetic than just having to wear an Omnipod or a pump. How has that transition, how did you get into the role, right? Like, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into it, and we can ask you some questions about how you practice?
Yeah, so basically, I think I was 12 or 13. I wish I remembered my diabetes educator's name at the time. I really liked her. We really connected well. And I was like, I want your job. How do I become what you do? And she was a certified diabetes educator. And she was like, oh, you can either become a nurse or you can become a dietitian. And I'm like, I don't like smells. I don't like goo. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. So I will not make a good nurse. So let me look into this nutrition piece. So literally I went to school to become a certified diabetes educator. I could care less about nutrition. Like in college, I literally, they did like a nutrition outline of like how I ate, and my preceptor was like, Alexis, you need to add some veggies to what you're eating. Cause like at the time I was eating like grilled cheese with bacon and like extra butter and French fries with my Diet Pepsi.
Go on. Yeah, go on. Tell us more. Okay.
It was like, mind you, I'm with all these health conscious people to become a dietitian to help change the world. I'm like, no, y'all, I'm just going to become a certified diabetes educator. And so through that, I became a dietitian. And basically my first job was at a residential eating disorder facility. And I saw the power of the relationship between what you're eating and how you're feeling. And like really talking about your emotions and your emotions about food and emotions about how food made you feel. And that was powerful. And so I was there for a very long time. And, you know, how I like to practice nutrition didn't really fit with how my job was teaching it. So then I branched out, and when I started my first private practice in 2012, 2013, and that's kind of where my passion for nutrition came, because I wasn't feeling well. And my chiropractor at the time was like, hey, have you looked at what you ate, Miss Dietitian lady? And I'm like, maybe that's something I should look into. How am I eating? And so I started changing how I ate. I was doing CrossFit like 4 days a week. And yeah, I loved it. That's how I started my love with Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting.
It's badass.
But then I saw the connection of how my body changed, like my hormones, like I had acne, I had crazy mood swings, I had all this inflammation clear up just because I changed how I eat. So because of that, that changed how I practice nutrition in my private practice. So that's like where my passion for health and food and like your emotions with food, and that's all how it began.
What is, if you don't mind me asking, not personally, but what you see as somebody who practices with, you know, women right now, for all the women listening, what do you see as what's the most important emotion to recognize that there might be a problem?
I think if you are feeling anxious about food, or you're afraid to eat food, or if you feel like you're having a stressful day and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to eat a whole pint of ice cream, and that's like your only coping mechanism. Like if that's one mechanism, that's fine. It's normal to eat for emotion, because carbohydrates and other food, they cause changes in your hormones. But if that's your only tool, like that's an issue. You should maybe dig a little deeper, maybe look at your self-care, look like at your sleep, you know? So that's kind of what I would say. Emotional eating, I feel like a lot of people can't connect to those words, because you're like, you don't want to admit like, oh, I'm an emotional eater. But it's more of like, we all have emotions. If you're only using one coping mechanism to manage that emotion, like that's something you might want to uncover.
That's good. Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think our listeners will as well, so thank you. I'll tell you right now, I've been somebody who identifies as an emotional eater. That's been something that I just know about myself. I love food.
I think we all do. Right?
We do, but I think that, you know, depending on what you've had happen in your life and how you look at those experiences or what's happened, some things kind of, they get blown out of proportion. And especially if you're looking at it by yourself, if you're not going to therapy or seeing a therapist, you know, those are really big elements in taking care of yourself. And I think self-care, you've mentioned it before, it's so important, right? Tuning into yourself.
Yeah. And another thing to keep in mind is that there's always so much judgment when these emotions come up and you may emotionally eat. And I think it's important, like, to give each other grace, give yourself grace and like love and kindness, because like emotions are normal. Like we're supposed to have them. We're not supposed to stuff them. We're not supposed to, you know, make them go away. Like they're there for a reason. And it's usually because something else is happening underneath that needs to be addressed in one way. And sometimes our like natural behaviors may make the emotions more intense, meaning like if you're skipping meals, or if you're like not eating a well-balanced meal, or if you're not sleeping, or you're drinking too much coffee or too much wine, like, you know, there's so many things that could impact your emotions that you don't even realize. Like if you're able to kind of balance one, you might see a reprieve or a better like emotional management, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. Total sense.
Wow.
I don't know if you can tell I get passionate.
You
I
are
really do.
passionate, but
We love that though.
yeah, we like to see it. We like to hear it. We've talked a lot about, Brandon and I have had conversations and discussions about this. But I think one of the most important things is, as yourself, as a Black woman, having a relationship with your patients. I don't know what percentage of your patients you see are Black versus white or Hispanic or Asian descent, but right now, what is the biggest need in that space, especially for Black women?
That it's okay to rest and it's okay to like take a break and you don't have to do it all. And I'm preaching to myself. Like literally this week I had like a breakdown. I'm like, I'm running away. I'm going to a hotel. You and Zuri are going to have to figure it out. And like,
Sorry.
And all I needed was a break because I've been doing a lot, like like, yes, we're in COVID and we're home more, but we're home more and we're in COVID. So it's like a lot more stress. So like, it's okay to rest. It's okay to sit down. It's okay to like eat your favorite foods and like enjoy a glass of wine if that's what you choose, or a cup of tea. Like I've been really I'm preaching to myself at this point of like little self-care moments throughout the day. So I'll have a glass of tea. I'm into like herbal stuff. So like I made an anti-stress tincture.
Okay.
So I'll take my little tinctures. I'll put my little essential oils around just to kind of help force myself to slow down and do some self-care. Because if not, like my go-to thing is like I like wine, but if I'm drinking multiple glasses of wine throughout the day, like I am not going to be a functional human being. So like I need to figure out how to self-regulate in other ways so I'm not like drunk all day, which I'm not. It's just an example.
I hate when you say something and then you got to clear it up because you're like, oh boy, that doesn't sound.
No, but I think that's good because like you're aware, and I think one of the most important things I think with living with diabetes is being aware, being aware and figuring out, not just with diabetes, but in life, being aware of things that may not put us on the best path or, lead us in the right direction all the times. And it's okay to step back and take that break. It's okay to be angry and to be mad or to be upset, but long as we get back on path, and it doesn't throw everything else off, so taking a break in any situation, I think we've definitely all been there, so.
Yeah, definitely.
And what has your relationship? So you've been, how long have you been practicing in your private practice? How long have you been practicing?
Yeah, I started in like 2012, and then once I had Zuri, I stopped because it was just too much. So I stopped in 2017, and then 2019 I relaunched. And so I've been practicing consistently since 2019.
Okay.
And right now, of course, everything is virtual, either telephone or video. Yeah, I love it.
Were you already involved with the online community, with the online diabetic community, or was the push for virtual coming from 2019 and 2020, did that really propel your online community presence, or was that something like, were you on Facebook and Instagram, but you had your practice separate, or was that something where you found, because we all find each other now through Instagram, and so could you tell us a little bit about like your experience inside the diabetic community as it pertains to like social media?
Sure. So I want to say, I don't even know the year. I'm bad at years, but I want to say I was like mid-20s, and I'm like, I need community. And I stumbled across Cerese's Twitter chat. And so I would just kind of be a weird stalker and not really participate. I would just be there. And then I kind of lost track of that. And then once I, once I started powerlifting and exercising, I started posting more on Instagram. So I was just kind of on Instagram and posting, working out and weightlifting and things like that. And then that's at Lady Lex. And then I didn't start my professional Instagram until It's been about a year in the fall. And so I kind of try and keep them separate because not everyone in the nutrition world wants to see all my issues with diabetes, you know?
Sure.
So I kept them separate. And not everyone on my diabetes page want to talk about like eating healthy and like checking in with your emotions and all that jazz.
That's tough because you feel like, well, maybe you feel like they should if you're a diabetic or you're in your diabetes world and you're like, well, nutrition is a big part of, living with diabetes.
Yeah.
You ever get angry at your friends? Pass. Next question.
It's all right. We'll leave that off the record.
I was just kidding.
So listen, my frustration is
Brandon, edit this out.
So listen, so I am like, if you want to eat the way you want to eat, like I'm not judgmental. And that's a part of the reason why I don't post on my Instagram page about it, because there's like 50 million ways how someone can eat and manage their diabetes. Like, who am I to tell you what's going to work for you? Like, unless you're paying me and like sitting across from me asking for my opinion, like I that's just my thoughts. That's how I feel about religion, politics, nutrition, it all. Like, unless you're paying me, I'm not gonna judge you. Like, literally, I could care less what's on your plate. And I know that's not true for a lot of dietitians. My frustration is when people keep asking and asking and asking, and then they like do 50 million other things. I'm like, why did you just ask me? Yeah. Which I know that's their journey and it's not me, but that's the long-winded answer.
It's a long process. Yeah. It's a long process, though, I think.
True.
Yeah.
Especially with friends and family.
Now, I do want to jump in and ask, how has the diabetes community kind of changed your outlook of people living with diabetes? Because obviously, I'm sure when you're growing up, you're the probably the biggest community that you had on being able to connect to people with diabetes was probably through camp. But as you got older and you begin to see more people and social media became like a huge thing. Like, how has your outlook been on like other people living with diabetes, and then how has that affected you? Positive or negative?
Yeah, so I feel like I've just been like a kid in a candy shop, like, oh my gosh, you have diabetes? I have diabetes. Like, I've just been so excited to kind of connect. That's how I always am. It really necessarily haven't changed how I look. I feel like I've learned that about other types of diabetes, like moody and just other types that I really wasn't aware of before. But it's just been so nice to connect. Like, I feel like I've been growing in relationships that I would have never had if it wasn't for Instagram or Facebook.
Amen.
There has been the sad side of the doc that I don't necessarily need to go into detail. But again, that's where my thoughts have, like, everyone has a different way of looking at things. Unless you're coming at my friends or myself, like, I don't usually comment unless you're coming at my friends or myself. And then
get them.
Yeah.
Get them.
All right, so let's do this then. Speaking of giving advice or people wanting it and taking it or maybe not listening, let's do this. If there's anyone out there listening today or listening in the future of what a newly diagnosed patient should hear, what would you tell a newly diagnosed patient? Now, understanding that you're not a CDC, like you're not in a position to give that type of advice, but just as a diabetic, like what would you?
As a mentor.
Yeah, what would you want someone to hear from you?
That it gets better with time, and that you're doing the work of an actual organ that was made to do something. So you're literally not going to be perfect.
I've never heard anybody put that like that. Like, I love that. Yeah. Like, I've never thought about it. When you actually think about that, it's like if your heart didn't work and you have to like make your heart work every single day, like how hard would that be? Like,
so hard.
So hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. and don't judge yourself. Like that was what, so to kind of go back, when I was pregnant with Zuri, I made my mind up of like, I'm doing the best I can with my diabetes care. If I have a high blood sugar, I know that it will eventually come down and that things will get like, it will get better. Like I never struggled with the whole idea of like, oh my goodness, the end of the world, I'm such a bad diabetic. It's like, no, we all are doing the best we can. Even if we're not doing the best, we're doing the best we can in the moment. In that moment, you not addressing that blood sugar is the best you can do, like, because of whatever circumstances, and like really having that mindset of like, we're doing the best we can, even when we're not, we're still doing the best we can.
Be nice to yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You have to. Now, what do you wish everyone knew about food in general?
That there's no good and bad foods. Literally, it's food. There's no moral compass. Certain will make you feel or do certain things in terms of blood sugar control. And if you know that's the case, then address it. Like, if you know it has carbs in it, take insulin and move on.
Yeah.
If your blood sugar goes high, take insulin and move on.
Definitely.
damn, that's so real. It's so real. Like it's so simplistic to think about it like that when you hear it from somebody, you know, but then when you get into your kitchen and it's been a long day and you feel like stressed, then all that stuff goes out the window and you have all of these thoughts in your head and it's like,
simple, complex, like.
Well,
right.
Yeah.
And mind you, I have not always been here. So like I have not always been here. Like I've been very hard on myself. I've beaten myself up. I've like, you know, been very angry with diabetes, and this is a good day. Like catch me on a day where my blood sugar's been 300 for like 10 hours. Like you'll get a different Alexis. Ask my husband.
We've all been there, right? We've all been there.
No.
No.
Of course. All right. Okay.
You hated you like in the middle of an argument. Go test your blood. I don't want to test my blood sugar. I'm fine. Like.
For anybody out there listening that doesn't live with diabetes and you're hearing that for the first time, like that's a real thing. Your blood sugar affects your mood affects your blood sugar. It's this like Cheerio size like little loop that happens, right? It's this tiny, tight little loop of emotions and blood sugars. And to Alexis's point, you know, how you eat is ultimately going to help determine how you feel. And you know, as somebody who said that before, I feel the same way now that I've been doing something similar. So it's great to hear that from you. Seriously.
Yeah, and the thing is like you can always reevaluate and change. Like there was a season where I was so low carb, but like my body didn't like it. I gained like 10 pounds and I was like miserable. And I'm a dietitian, so I know how to do low carb. I know how to count my carbs, my fats, my everything. It just didn't work. And then for years, I had, you know, naturally fell between a particular range of carbs, just how I usually ate. And the season I'm in now, I'm eating a whole bunch of carbs, and I'm okay with it. You know, like you just have to figure out what works best for you, and be okay with if it doesn't work. Let's reevaluate.
Such sound advice, and I hope everybody takes that and uses it in their life, if you're a diabetic or not. You know, I think food, obviously, everyone's got to eat. No one lives off water and air. So it's important for you to.
I'm sure there's a diet out there where you can.
To my knowledge. But you mentioned French fries before. We're going to have to say, like, I might have just had some garlic French fries, and it's a good thing we're not doing this in person because I got garlic breath.
We would have blew you up. We would have blew you out the door. Like,
no, I love garlic. I'm one of those weird natural people. Like I'll take 2 cloves of garlic if I start having a scratchy throat.
The holistic way. I like it.
So if can people get in contact with you for consultation, or is that something that's reserved? Like, is that possible? Can you plug your professionally?
Sure. So my diabetes Instagram account is Lady Lex. Don't ask. I was young. LADIELEX. And then my professional IG account is Alexis_M_Newman. Alexis_M_Newman. And there's like a little link tree there, or you can contact me at alexismnewman@webleed.com. Like, how often do you give these handles? I'm like,
we're gonna drop them. You know, it's funny because then you ask someone to spell something out, and you're like, I can't copy and paste it. We will put.
I have a little cheat sheet here.
I don't. All right. Well, I don't doubt it. It's hard. It's hard to remember. What we'll do is we'll drop your links in the description here. So if you're listening to this on one of the major platforms, please take a look at Alexis's information. She's got. Do you have a website?
It is. It's alexismnewman@webleed.com.
Oh, okay. That's it. All right. Yeah. So then you just said that. Wow.
Must have been a long day for you, sir.
It's been a long morning.
How's that blood sugar doing?
It's high. It's like 240. It went straight up because I was at like 46, and then I ate some gummy bears. All right. So what we're gonna do is there anything else that before we leave today? Is there anything else that you wanted to say or plug? We would be happy to hear. We'd love to have you on again and talk maybe specifically about some diet plans. And I mean, I'll tell you about what I eat, you know, and how my journey's been. But we'd love to have you plug anything that you'd like to, or leave us with anything here, Alexis.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be able to come hang out with you guys. I think what you're doing is amazing. Thank you for letting a woman crash your calls this summer. I've felt very connected, and I'm sure a lot of people do. And I think what you're doing is amazing. So thank you.
That's so nice.
We appreciate that. And don't feel like you're crashing our cause. They're for all humans living with diabetes.
Yeah, seriously. Somebody asked us today, they're like, do you let women in your calls? We're like, yeah. Well, like, does that defeat the purpose? And, you know, and in case you're hearing us for the first time, we started Bolus Maximus as a way to connect with men, Brandon Denton and myself, both men living with diabetes. But we've obviously since opened our doors to all humans living with diabetes, no matter how you associate yourself. Please come join us on Sunday at one of our calls. It's a safe space for everybody. It happens at the same time on Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard, 6 p.m. on the East Coast, and 11 p.m. in the UK. We'll see you this weekend. We appreciate Alexis. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so fun to talk with you. We've been looking forward to this for so long. So
I know. I'm sorry. I'm the worst at answering emails. It's like I answer them in my head, and I'm just like, oh my God.
We do that. It takes two. It takes two parties. We were the other party that weren't doing it. So we finally did it. It's New Year, right? We didn't do it in 2020. We left that behind us. We're looking forward in 2021. Congratulations on 37 years with diabetes. And we'll look forward to having you on again. So this is us signing off today. My name is Matt Taro.
And I'm Brandon A. Denson.
That is your name. And as always, keep it 100. And like we said, come check us out on our website. We'll drop the website and email link here in the description. And we'll catch you next time.
Keep it 100. If you don't know, now you know. Bolus Maximus is not sponsored by anybody. But if you would like to get involved or sponsor a podcast,
please reach out to us at thebolusmaximus@gmail.com. That is the thebolusmaximus@gmail, or through our website, bolus, bolusm.org. That is www.bolusm.org. We also have an Instagram, Facebook, and a YouTube channel. Please feel free to reach out.